Boom! And we're live, and it's Atlantic Scrum, and here we are, and Yarrow and Sly and Chris and John. Here we go. Let's go to screen share. Press the buttons. Press the buttons. Here we go. Right. So, should we start with Chris? How are things with you?
Things are lovely.
Excellent.
Do you want me to repeat what we said off camera, or?
Sure. I mean, you know, I mean, I guess John wasn't here. Whatever brief summary you think is appropriate to update people on, you know, what you've been doing, what if anything is blocking you, and what you plan to do.
Okay. So I've just submitted a pull request for a story that I worked on with Yarrow concerning the statistics dashboard. So that's running through the Travis system now.
Right, and is that related to this UI?
It has nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I was just trying to work out how to zoom in on it. Okay, sure. Okay, so a statistics thing. I'll get with the other thing that just it's like a number of running stats for the project.
Yeah, so I hooked up with Yarrow, and he kind of came up with a quick plan for implementing this thing or developing it.
Cool.
That it would run across 3 iterations, and we'd really just try to grab the low-hanging fruit in the first iteration, and then if more complexity is warranted, then we'd sort of build onto it.
It is the agile way. Excellent. Yes. Anything blocking you in particular?
Who, me? No, not really.
Good show. And what are your plans now?
Well, I'm about to pair with Sly and possibly Yarrow. I'm not sure on that. On another story, the name of which is escaping me at the moment. Something to do with managing documents.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, I think that Sly mentioned that in the previous Scrum. Okay.
It's about documents revisions.
Right. Right. The document revision history.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, since you're on mic, Sly, Sly, do you want to just update us on anything that, you know, I mean, it's the usual 3 things of what have you been doing, what's blocking you, and what are you planning? I guess we know what you're planning to do because Chris just told us, but yeah, anything else?
Well, I've recently submitted an update to pull requests related to the documents management, which is about changing the parent ID of the document. There were some failing tests there, and I paired with Yarrow earlier today, so he helped me discover that I should actually run the tests without Zeus, because they were failing because that there were some tests that are not related with my work that were failing, which was strange. So the pull request got tested by Travis, and it's green now. So I guess next step is to be merged in the upcoming days if no other of the guys have some comments.
Discover any issues with it. Sure. Good show.
Yeah, so nothing blocking me at the moment, and yeah, we're going to pair with Chris and Yarrow probably about this documents revision thing. And actually, while we're here, I have a question about it. Me and Yarrow were talking about this document revision stuff that would probably also be okay to skip the repeating records of the revision. For example, if a user has edited the document in 3 or 4 sequential occasions, at the moment it's displaying them all. Yeah, and do you think that this would be a nice feature to skip those? I mean, show only the unique ones.
That sounds like that's probably quite nice. I think, off the cuff, it's not clear to me what the top kind of business level thing is of that. Is the feature that you're, I mean, at the moment, if we look at a document in the site somewhere. Let's go and look at the website one. Let's go to projects, website one. Go and look at website one documents. When we look at so you're working on this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the revisions listing at the moment. At the moment, I guess it just lists, but it doesn't. You can't go back and see what the previous ones were. But what's the top level user story that you're working against? You're working against making previous versions of the document accessible. Is that right?
No, actually, we're working just on, as far as I understood the story, we're working just on hiding the revisions under some kind of JS button that will going to display them if someone in particular wants to take this
them. Right, so
information.
making them hidden by default.
I posted a link in the group chat with a description.
Right. Yes, that's interesting because I seem to remember that in the past I think they were collapsible.
No, it's only for the about page. If you go to the about page,
okay, right. So this would be basically this is to add that collapse. Like so, here we have revisions like this, which I mean I remember discussing this with Thomas. I think that this is potentially for newcomers. This arrow is. I mean, this UI is. Once you know what it does, it's fine. But okay, so you're looking to add that functionality to the current here to avoid having a huge list of revisions.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the key thing you're thinking of. Which is let's just go to the. Is it in the where is it in the tracker?
It's in the current log at the bottom.
Okay. Documents management.
Revisions. Try revisions. Just
documents updates history.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. Okay. So in order to have only use of, right. Yes. So I mean, I think I'm definitely behind this story in that I can certainly see that how now that we have the discussed comments, then this is not very useful information. So having it hidden is great. I would say in the interests of doing the simplest thing first, Slide, then the process of collapsing things that are very similar down into one, I would probably leave that for a subsequent situation. Do you know what I mean? It seems like the immediate user need is just probably this would be helpful if it was minimized by default. Like if people really need to see it, then that's fine. It's probably more interesting to see the discussion than it is to see exactly who edited it when. Did you have a specific thought about matching precisely this UI, or you had your own ideas about what kind of icon to use to indicate the hidden status of it?
We haven't discussed this one with Chris and Yarrow yet, but in a separate pairing session, just me and Yarrow, he suggested, as well as you did, that this icon is not very user-friendly. It's not very understandable and comprehensive. So I'm sharing the same opinion as well, and I was thinking about creating maybe or using at least some other icon that would be more comprehensive.
I mean, I think these icons here, I think are at least they follow. These are again, one can argue about how comprehensible they are. I think this kind of icon, like we have for these, makes more sense. Although, I guess what I would also maybe say is, in the first instance, in order again to make things like as absolutely simple as possible, given that this functionality is it's what we already have in the site and it's standardized, you might, for a first iteration, just consider re-implementing this, because that would mean that you would reuse the existing thing, and people who already understand that from the about page, it kind of allows you to boil down the feature into something absolutely trivial. That doesn't mean that it should stay like that, but arguably, if we're going to change that in this location, then ideally they should be the two things should be consistent.
Sure, I share the same opinion. I would like to do it the first iteration like with the arrow, and then we could just change the icon or so at the.
Yeah, then there could be a separate request for that later on. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm very pleased to be in the loop. Greetings to Amal. Let me just finish up. Sly, yeah, I think we've covered all of
Yeah,
your
sure.
things, and you're going to be pairing. We'll just check check in with John. John, how are things with you?
All right. Yeah, Amal and I have been plugging away with the new data structures and streams for the events slash Hangout slash Scrum videos. So I don't know how you feel about that. I haven't talked to you directly, but Thomas gave the go-ahead, and Yarrow has been involved with it. So the basic idea is, well, we tried actually the other day, Amal and I tried starting with what we had and starting to modify it, but the changes, like we plan on replacing some of the pages, like the front page for the index, the events index page.
Right, yeah.
And it was just getting to be too messy trying to change what was there, so we started over, or not, yeah, right. So one issue I'm thinking about is when we do eventually submit pull requests, I think it makes more sense to start a separate, well, I don't know if it makes more sense to start a separate branch and then gradually build up these features until we get it to the point where it can be integrated, or just keep on, or maybe just keep do it one step at a time and to develop. That's
I mean that's I think that's a challenging, there's not necessarily a simple answer, or at least it's difficult for me to advise without knowing more about some of the details. Maybe for the purpose of the Scrum, we won't dig into it too much there, although I could be available immediately after the Scrum to talk a little bit further about it. The key thing I wanted to mention to you was, so I think Thomas and Brian have been moving around the Pivotal Tracker and moving various things related to events and Hangouts, and I think that they kind of wanted to do a consolidation on like being clear which of the stories, and like there seems to be a lot of separate stories and different things, so there kind of needs to be a consolidation. I'm very keen for the events page to be updated in the way that you've been envisaging. But so, yeah, if you've got my messages in Slack, but if you can try and coordinate with Thomas and or Brian to make one of the dev meetings to discuss that further, that would be good. Although, have you spoken to Thomas since this morning?
No, not since this morning. I've kind of been reluctant to get involved in more of the meetings just because they tend to go, like the developer meetings tend to go on quite a while.
Sure, so, yeah. Well, that's something.
I'd rather practice my programming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always try and work hard to cap the scrums. Yeah, I mean the danger is that one ends up in these discussion meetings for a very long time. On that note, yes, I guess we will then move on. I think the thing to be clear, the thing to work out, particularly if you and Amal are going to be pairing on this now, is be clear on, again, come back to try and to move towards a pull request, try and find one thing that is the simplest thing possible that can be an incremental change. And so for example, that would seem to me to be the safest general approach. But at the end of the day, I have to leave it up to you. I guess there's nothing blocking you technically, John, at the moment.
Right.
Apart from that general kind of issue of like what's the best approach, and you're preparing now. Amal,
I have a.
Go ahead.
I'm unsure of what's happening with this project. I saw some of the discussions going on with you, Thomas, and Yarrow, and I didn't look in to see what features were moving back and forth. But my involvement and interest in this project is that I wanted to learn more about the event, and when I looked at the feature set, there wasn't a lot of description, use cases, stories that explained what it is the feature or the current event and scheduler does, and how it could be used throughout Agile Ventures.
Right.
And I saw it as a very, it's used pivotal, a fundamental block needs to be thought at correctly so that can make progress and everything else forward. Because at the heart, you have a scheduler that needs to be integrated. Plus, it has to be able to capture assets from any event that's scheduled or any session, whether it's a pairing sessions will have their own assets, whether it's a dev meeting will have their own assets, and all these things I didn't see existed in current features. So I did this as an exercise to see what we could do to come up with a fundamental piece to Agile Ventures. Or what I see would be a fundamental piece.
Yeah.
I don't know whether others see it that way, but this is how I looked at it. And now I'm not really sure where this is going. And it's very hard to pick a something that's going to be the least incremental or the lowest.
I'm agreeing with everything you're saying there. I guess what I'm tempted to do is say, like, let's just finish going around the people, and then can we come back and talk some more about it? Does that?
Oh yeah, sure. No worries. Sorry.
Because I just think I wanted to check in with Yarrow and ask how things were. This is assuming. I'm assuming that John has explained kind of like the plans of yours, and now you're not blocked on any other technical issue. It's conceptual. That maybe we can address
it's conceptual
after the Scrum. Yarrow, how are things with you?
Things are great. I haven't done much work. I've sort of been orphaned for a little bit. Was sort of writing firewall messages. But I paired with Sly this morning. I paired with Christopher and Sly just this afternoon. We sort of got some work done on the pull requests in the pipeline. Also, I have polished and I have impacted the Coffee script back into the JavaScript for the latest pull request of mine. And by the way, guys, for those of you in the Scrum, I ask you, would you please spend a few seconds visiting the pull request and just I'm just posting the links into the group chat and commenting on the user interface for the last pull request. So that's sort of so I can get feedback as quickly as possible, change anything, and sort of wrap things up for this feature. The link to the demo site is in the group chat or just there. Yeah, that is it. But yeah, basically this is it.
Okay, so nothing blocking you, and then Yarrow, I guess you're around preparing. I guess there was some suggestion that you were going to.
Yeah, I will stick around with the slide, Christopher. But I guess I wanted to give an overview of the feature for the document revisions. We've done it mostly, so just stick around for a little bit, and then I don't know. I'll find something to do.
Good show. Yes. So going on to me, yeah, I've actually managed to finish the work that I wanted to do on the 169 textbook. I think the majority of all of the Ruby and Rails code examples in there are now working, and I feel deeply satisfied with that. We had a big, very active Scrum this morning. I think as people maybe would have watched the video or followed the text comments on website 1. And I think it's worth addressing there. I think there's been some tension, particularly between Yarrow and Thomas recently, and ultimately Thomas saying that he doesn't feel that he can work with Yarrow at the moment, which I think is unfortunate. Yarrow's contributed a lot to the project and works very hard, and I enjoy working with him. But as Yarrow and I have discussed, Yarrow is a very, very sharp tool, and he sometimes he can ruffle feathers. I think Thomas is under a lot of pressure. I think he's been out, he's come back, he's trying to do his best to get back into the saddle. I wish that Yarrow and Thomas could carry on working effectively. Sometimes I think in a distributed team it's important for people to separate. Since Thomas is the project lead, although we have enormously the website 1, I think it's I'm going with what actually and it did happen before in January. Is there some background audio we're getting from somebody? Somebody wants some. Is that John there? There was a point in January, February where Thomas and Yarrow were not getting on, and Yarrow needed to step away. And all credit to Yarrow for in that situation apologizing and stepping away. And it looks like Yarrow's going to be very professional and do the same thing again. I've invited Yarrow to come and work on local support with me. I know there's a lot of other interesting projects going on. I think it's a testament to the fact that there is something of value going on here in Agile Ventures, that we've got a number of different projects and a number of different possibilities. Yeah, so I think that's a shame, but I think that it does happen sometimes. Sometimes there are personality conflicts. I think we're trying to be as fair to everybody. If there's anything that I can do, if we have problems with how it's being managed or organized, I'm kind of nominally the person who's behind all of this. In general, for each of the projects, I think while it might be nice to have a democracy where people could in each project vote on what's going on, I think it and this is the way that most software projects are run, like by Linus Torvalds for Linux and so on. You have a single person who is the project manager and has the final say. And yeah, I don't know. Although as from Agile development says we should be able to question that. I hope we can continue to have discussions about it. But so yeah, I mean I can be available now for more discussion on Agile Ventures. I guess probably unless there's any other burning comments, maybe we'll stop the broadcast there. Let people who want to go off do pairing and do actual code. And I can be available for a bit more discussion of what that topic we touched on with John and Amal of what's the events thing all about really. Does that sound reasonable? Anybody else want to add any final comments or final issues for the group?
I think the benevolent dictator has spoken.
That's yeah. I'll get that recording and mounted and framed and put over my desk. All right, great.